Welcome back, everyone. Things are going to be a bit different this time, as I'm doing a bit of an experiment using AI voice. It turns out that trying to record these things takes up a lot more time than I thought it would. Time that's become very apparent that I don't have to spare. Hopefully, doing this will help get these out quicker. Oh, and don't worry, I will still be the one talking in some sections. For those new to my series, who have lost which part or place they're on, check out the FNAF Ruin, the Important Things Missed tables of contents down below to find where you want to go. Now, if you haven't seen any of my videos or Reddit posts before, then hello, I'm Jonsie, and we're about to burrow down into the hidden depth of Ruin.
Where we last left off, Monty came out of the pipe for a bite and pushed Cassie into what I guess is sewer water, and then we're hit with a title drop.
When I first saw this happen, I actually thought Monty fell into the water with us, but slowing the video down, looking at the cutscene out of bounds, revealed that he doesn't. That explains why when we see him, he's entering Monty from a different area and not coming from behind us. Also, I just thought of another interesting tidbit that I really should have put in my last video. Better late than never. Cassie was unaware of the current states of the Glamrocks post-security breach. Now, what exactly does this tell us? I don't know. Like I said, I just thought of this right now. But judging by the fact that the Glamrocks are all showing signs of the shattering by Gregory, it must mean that Fazbear Entertainment didn't bother fixing them the following morning, or the days after the earthquake. Speaking of that, it's hard to tell what's damage from that and what's damage from Fazbear Entertainment's demolition of the place. Actually, why are the Glamrocks still here in a ruined piece of Plex? They're valuable to Fazbear Entertainment, if not for their hard-trained mannerisms and personalities, then at least for their data of parts. Then again, there were a whole bunch of endos inside the piece of Plex during the security breach, so maybe they just grabbed the prototypes of the Glamrocks. It could explain the whole Freddy/Proto-Freddy conundrum that got everybody twisted into knots. Why put effort into recovering something that's clearly defective in more ways than one, when you could just grab the second, third, or fourth prototype nearest to completion and go from there? Heck, you could just slap a new endo casing on them without ever completing the endo's training, all without having to start over from scratch. That sounds like something Fazbear Entertainment would do.
From the mouth of Monty, Cassie, along with other trash and debris, is spat out onto the ground level of Monty Golf. Here, she crawls through some makeshift tunnels and gets jump scared by the most terrifying creature of the new games, Mapbot! Or is it Maskbot now? The misshapen Maskbot insists for Cassie to take a free mask. The security mask.
For some reason, on my first couple of watches of the scene, I didn't catch on to the fact that this is indeed a Mapbot that's been shaped into a Maskbot. Also, an interesting thing I could point out here is that this Mapbot can only sound masculine, whereas in Security Breach, there's a chance to encounter either the masculine or feminine sounding version of the bot.
It is not actually called Vanny's mask, Strange mask, or even a rabbit mask as an item in the game. Its item description reads, "A strange mask left behind by some Faz technician."
Now, all of the item descriptions can be safely stated to be coming from Cassie, with only two sounding a bit off, the Tragedy mask and the Comedy mask, which themselves can be explained as Cassie mimicking Sun and Moon, as we know she's been to the daycare before Ruin happens by a description of Sun and Moon's plushies. She also has good memories of being there. But the reason I'm bringing this up here is because the mask's name and description are at odds with each other. It's called Security Mask by the game, but Cassie thinks it's a strange mask and that it must have been left behind by some technician. So why isn't it called the Strange Mask or the Technician Mask, if that's what she thinks it is? I think this is a solid confirmation from the devs about Vanny's fate in Security Breach. As I previously mentioned and posted, Vanny is in the Pizzaplex at the time of Ruin, and she was the head of security in the Pizzaplex, and now we have her face, or at least one of them. If that is the case, then it alludes to the fact that this entire DLC was an elaborate plan started by Glitchtrap or the Mimic, and enforced by Vanny to make it go as smoothly as possible. But why? What's the purpose of doing all this other than freeing the Mimic? I'm not sure at this moment in time, but if we carry on, we might find more clues.
Cassie took the mask, leaving the Maskbot empty-handed and causing it to shut down afterwards. It fulfilled its purpose of giving the mask to Cassie, and Vanny, Glitchtrap, and the Mimic have no more use for it. Cassie marvels at the mask and puts it on, which is where we are introduced to some new things in the franchise lore: Helpy, Vanni, and the network.
This right here is the linchpin, the backbone, the foundation of a most devious plan to ruin, and a root vitally linking all three villains and most antagonists that have been revealed so far in this new era FNAF. This network is something we finally see for the first time in Ruin, and is barely mentioned in passing in the security breach. At the beginning of the game, Freddy, when meeting Gregory for the first time, says this:
Gregory. I will notify the main office. Connection error. I cannot connect to the main network.
And from the books, is infected by something that mimics. That something has infected the network since Help Wanted. Something was scanned into that game. It had usable code that seemed to take a hold of itself. It watched the beta testers, and then he started to appear, as was first said by Jeremy. The he, as we came to know, was canonically named Glitchtrap in Help Wanted, the same game that told us to remember Jeremy. Jeremy's name is in the theater room in Ruin, drawn next to a pizza, the same pizza that was drawn by Vanny near the daycare entrance. We know that Help Wanted, both VR and the mobile version, was infected by Glitchtrap, and that it exists in-universe from the description of AR Nightmare plushie in Ruin. It's from that old headset game, although I'm not sure about the mobile version existing, but it must, considering that Princess Quest was first introduced there. We know from the old cartoon teasers for Security Breach that Glitchtrap is in some way connected to that game, as piecing together every purple glitch from those teasers create his image. But in the game itself, he is an absolute no-show. No voice lines, no appearances, nothing. Well, besides the purple amalgamations we find at the end of Prison Quest 1, other than that, nothing. Where is he? Ruin would have been the perfect place for him to show up again, as a plushie or as some kind of new digital form, unless the Princess Quest ending is canon. But Vanny's presence in Ruin after Security Breach tell us that is not the case. So again, where is he? The answer is the network itself. What do I mean by that? Well, let's move on to what happens next.
After putting on the mask and commenting about the world of AR, Cassie is then welcomed by a blue-eyed Helpy. A Helpy with an eye, how suspicious. And is told by him that the mask is VANNI, Virtual Augmented Neural Network Integration Unit, and immediately his eyes changed from blue to orange, or yellow, it doesn't matter really. Purple veins become visible on Helpy like they are bulging and appear from the back of his head, and his tone of speaking becomes less formal and more casual, as he, without any form of consent, pairs, as in implants, an occipital transponder to Cassie.
Now, I didn't know what an occipital transponder was exactly, but I assumed it had something to do with the mind. But thanks to AndyJM93, I hope I got your name right, from the FNAF Theory subreddit, I understand what it means. I'll put it on screen for you all to see, but all that is needed for my video is the knowledge that the occipital transponder does in fact have something to do with the mind, specifically the visual part of the brain. Basically, it explains why Cassie can see Helpy and glitch objects outside the mask. Helpy will explain this himself when we first take off the mask. Speaking of Helpy, I want to take a moment and get into this curious little guy. On first watch, I'm sure you did as well, pick up the fact that his eyes change colors occasionally throughout the game. I thought he was going to be slowly corrupted by the Mimic until it was too late for Cassie. Then, once we reached the part where Cassie couldn't take the mask off, I thought for sure this was game over for her. But then she could take it off again. Okay then, what if this has something to do with the endings? Maybe you'll get a different ending depending on how long you use the mask, or if you listen to Helpy too much or something. And then the game's ends. Next I go through videos showing me different endings, and boom, an ending where if you put on the mask near a cardboard cutout of Freddy, you get The Brazil ending? That's it? That's all there is to the mask when it comes to the endings? Alright. As you can see, my confusion towards the mask in the game was acceptance. I didn't put any more thought into its placement in the game, as I assumed it was there for gameplay purposes only, and maybe a cool way to find Easter eggs. Well, I was wrong. I didn't even realize how wrong I was until I started this deep dive in Ruin. So very, very, very wrong. I said that Glitchtrap is a network itself, right? The reason Cassie was given the security mask was to give him another vessel or body to do his bidding. It was meant to secure her, to make sure there was no miscommunication of what he wants her to do, to make sure she follows the path he set out for her. Just listen to these pause menu quotes.
Don't you care about Gregory? Why aren't you trying harder to deactivate the final node? Don't think. Just do it.
Don't feel bad. It was for the best.
Helpy is a separate being that can be helpful and informative, just like the Glamrock animatronics can be good and friendly. But also like them, his personality and being can be heavily influenced / infected by Glitchtraps to do things he is capable of doing but wouldn't do otherwise. Think about it for a second. Helpy told us exactly what the mask was, plain as day and clear as crystal. It's a virtual, augmented neural network integrator. He is called Helpy and not Helpy with the Y because the I also means integrator, because he helps integrate people into the network, integrate into Glitchtrap. Remember the purple amalgamation at the end of Princess Quest 1? It's all to integrate, to connect her, to transfer her thoughts to the network and vice versa. Earlier, I had asked why we hadn't seen Glitchtrap in the room. Now, however, I believe we already did. He is everywhere. The reason why the surroundings of the AR world are dominantly purple is because that is Glitchtrap's domain. It is the reason why when you climb through the makeshift tunnels in Monty in the real world, they appear like rabbit tunnels in the AR world. We are literally seeing the Pisaflex through the twisted Wonderland-like vision of Glitchtrap. Why isn't Glitchtrap appearing in his digital-like form like in Help Wanted? Why should he when he can watch from afar with multiple eyes? Recall my mentioning of the green graffiti of multiple different eyes on the wall. The cameras. Just look how we see them appear whenever Cassie deactivates a node in the area of the Pisaplex. Eyes that blink or are forever watching us. Okay, what about the places in the Pisaplex that you can't put the mask on? What about the places that don't even have AR versions of themselves? Glitchtrap is not all seeing. There are places where he can't tell where she is in the game. Like this pause menu quote when she rides the gondolas into the maintenance room. Remember that the mask Cassie has is with her at all times in the DLC as soon as she gets it, and it's connected to the network too. That means it is always trying to find connection to the network at all times, and when it does, it gives Glitchtrap's Cassie location every time it connects. And if that's not bad enough, Cassie has been implanted with a wireless transponder directly into her head, which means he will always know that it's her along with her location. That entire sequence of Cassie going underground to whatever ending, the pause menu is still communicating to us even though Helpy told Cassie that she was leaving the Vane coverage zone. Freddy said he was trying to connect to the main network. That means there are sub-networks in the Pisaplex, which also means that Glitchtrap has more area coverage than we realize, including where the Mimic was sealed, as there are cameras down there too. Also, remember that Glitchtrap has direct access to Cassie's brain now at all times she's in the Pisaplex, as she can see digital manifestations in the real world without the mask on.
You acknowledge that Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for accidental digital consciousness transference, real-world manifestations of digital characters, nightmares, night terrors, night sweats.
Manifestations of digital characters, right? That wouldn't also mean a room full of plush babies that disappear with a laugh, would it? On the topic of plushies, there is one that has been appearing in these last two games that I've been struggling to understand why, but now I think I'm catching on to why. The Nightmare plush. Not Nightmare on, but Nightmare. You know, It never clicked for me that the plushie is not named after the thing it's parroting in these games. But I recall that Scott told us that Nightmare Beyond is not actually a canon character in FNAF 4, along with Jackal Bonnie, Jackal Chica, and Nightmare Mango, but reappears in Ultimate Custom Night with some of them, along with voice lines to torture Afton. But Nightmare Beyond never existed as a physical animatronic or being in the real world of these games. Then comes Help Wanted, his first canonical appearance in a game that we know exists in the real world of the series. Not only that, his name is acknowledged as Nightmare Beyond in that very game along with his very own plushie. That plushie is identical to the plushies that have been appearing in both Security Breach and Ruin. So why is it called Nightmare Plushie in the next two games if it is acknowledged as Nightmare Beyond's plushie in Help Wanted? It all has to do with what was said in the full disclosure of Help Wanted's intro.
You acknowledge that Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for accidental digital consciousness transference, real-world manifestations of digital characters, nightmares, night terrors, night sweats.
We had it all wrong. The Nightmare plushies do not represent Puppet or Nightmare Beyond, or even the fact that Charlie, robot, human, or spirit, has come back in some way. It represents Help Wanted, or to be specific, it is a physical representation of Glitchtrap influence on the Pizzaplex itself. But Glitchtrap already has a plushie, I hear you all saying. We've seen it in Help Wanted in its DLC, an entirely green Bonnie plushie. Yes, he does, and yes we did, but that plushie is not real in the game, nor in the real world and universe. In fact, you can't even get it from the prize corner, or as a collectible in any game besides Help Wanted. It's flickering, it's glitching. Tell me, how do you come by it again? Oh, by completing the digital transfer with Glitchtrap. That is not a plushie. That is Glitchtrap, shifted into a new portable form that can be carried. And carried he was, by someone he had a digital transfer with. She's a bit reluctant, but like a loyal follower, she carried his digital form to a new place, a Pizzaplex. And in all kinds of different places in the Pizzaplex, in both Security Breach and Ruin, you can find a different but specific plushie with a new name that has no physical existing counterpart, but ties back to the game that were both introduced in and made canon. Let me tell you about two important places that this plushie is in that can help link it back to our antagonists of the new era of FNAF. 1. The Endo training room where Gregory can pick it up as a real-world collectible. And 2. The underground layer of the Mimic where it hides behind boxes as Cassie gets in the elevator. The Endo training room, as was pointed out by many people, has a door with an image of Glitchtrap painting on it by Vanny. That, along with the other graffiti doors in that area, suggest they are purposely training the Endos to do the opposite or bad thing in a location that is meant to teach them how to be good to children and customers. The underground location is obvious, as it connects to where the Mimic is sealed and where the underground cameras are. Both of these places are where Glitchtrap has coverage over, and in turn has many eyes to see into. All he needs is just a physical body or someone he can manipulate to put his plans into action. And that someone in Ruin is Cassie. There's so much more I could talk about, but we need to move on in Monty Golf. But I will be making this into his own video in the near future, so be on the lookout for that. Back to Cassie, Monty Golf, and Glitchtrap's subtle manipulations.
After accepting her new helper on her left shoulder, who disappeared for the time being, Cassie, metaphorically, begins to wander through this area of Monty, all while gazing at her new purple wonderland thanks to her security mask. She finds a collectible of an AR Glam Monty plush, with its item description reading, "It's hard to look at." Some people say this because of her encounter with Monty earlier. I think it's because it's pixelated or glitchy. But who knows? Next, she encounters her first digital manifestation in the real world, blocking her, but only if she's not wearing her mask. A few more steps and puzzles later, Cassie finds herself in the Chica-themed ladies' room, where we meet the newest curiosity of these games, Pat Pat, aka the Wet Floor Bot, aka the Caution Bot. For some reason, the alarm bells are ringing again in Jonsie's head. Without the mask, these things are just as they were in Security Breach. Cute, innocent looking and just standing there looking at you. With the mask on, however, cries and wailing. All of it is a constant sound that deceptively, almost quietly assaults the ears and grabs the attention of those who are willing to listen. The only way to make it stop is to stop its source. Hold to deactivate the wet floor bot.
I guess still we'll actually listen to the people who said that security breach was way too sci-fi. Because there goes that supernatural and dark atmospheric essence that this series was founded on. So, knowing what we know now about the game, and the connection to Glamrock Bonnie and Bonnieville, my immediate reaction is to say this all goes back to the Glitch Trap network. How? I don't know. I'm honestly completely stumped by this. I could say that this is the soul suit that is the base of the network, or maybe piloted by the collective agony of those forcibly integrated into the network, or just flat out die in the Pizzaplex. We know people are missing in the surrounding area thanks to the runaway ending and security breach, and know that many people die in the Pizzaplex from the books. It's all possible, but the question of why and how is Bonnie connected to all this is still unanswered. We now know Roxy was seemingly a security node to the network. Maybe Bonnie was something similar. It could explain why he needed to be destroyed, and why Fazbear Entertainment never replaced him. Glitch Trap could stop, fire, or kill anyone who would attempt to repair him, or remake him. But it's a theory for another time and person.
Cassie moves on, disturbed but determined to find Gregory. Going through more digital manifestations, she gets an AR Bonnie piñata that looks like a stuffed Glamrock Bonnie that's already been busted open. Its item description reads, "Filled with carrot drop candy." This could be a hint at what happened to Bonnie, maybe. More walking, more looking, until we get to a more open area of Monty Golf. There, Cassie's eyes spot what looks like a computer on a workbench. Getting closer to it, Helby reappears and tells her it's a camera station that was already deployed and powered. Cassie activates it, and on the screen, Monty comes crawling from somewhere fast. Noticing buttons, Helby tells Cassie to press the intercom one, where she is surprised that her voice sounds out through a speaker, luring Monty towards it. Helby's eyes changed again, this time saying, "Fun trick, huh? I created it using samples of your voice." His tone became more casual before his eyes changed to blue again. He informs Cassie, back in his formal voice, that employees use this to direct animatronics around with their voice recordings. Once Monty is lured to a different area of Monty Golf, Cassie begins to move again, stopping by the Monty Golf arcade cabinet for a quick play and a new high score before moving on. Curiously, a Helpy cutout is pointing directly toward the digital manifestation. It's the exact place Cassie needs to go as she puts on the mask and walks through it.
You can find a Helpy cutout or paintings conveniently telling you where to go all throughout the DLC. At first, I thought it was the devs being too easy on the players. Then, when I discovered Vane's presence in the DLC, I thought it was her helping to push Cassie to her room, as she would have placed the walkie-talkie in front of the elevator, as we know for a fact she was only a few steps away from that area when she painted her face on the wall. But now that I found out Glitch Trap has access to what Cassie sees, it makes far more sense that he is manipulating her vision to help her get to where he needs her to go. If Vanny was doing the arrow thing, that means she would have known that Cassie would never deviate from that path laid out for her, and perfectly predict how some of the accidental things that occur in the DLC happens. So it has to be Glitch Trap. Or it could be the devs.
Onward in Monty Golf, Cassie goes, passing by a country shack and other props before walking ahead before she sees the name of Vanny on a wall. She is startled as Monty scrambles away from that area, knocking down a 3-step ladder and climbing over some boxes to disappear. Cassie follows Monty's path and hops over the boxes herself. Landing over the boxes, she sees an electrified door ahead and briefly puts on the mask. Walking towards the dangerous door, the distant sound of screams fills the ambiance around the area as a yellow particle funnel floats above her. It connects to the electrified door and goes off into the distance. Grimmick and Helpy tells her to shut off the security nodes if she wants to get through the door and find Gregory. Helpy also tells her that the door is in emergency lockdown mode and that she should check the AR world for active security nodes. Then his eyes changed, along with his tone, and he said, "Deactivate those nasty nodes and the door should open right up." Nasty nodes, huh? I guess you wouldn't like those, would you, Glitch Trap? Cassie's question about what security nodes are remained unanswered as she went to follow the other end of the yellow funnel. Not before going on a golf course into an RV and grabbing an AR plushie named AR Nightmare Plush. It looks identical to the real-world version of it, except it has purple eyeshadow around its eyes, and its eyes are brightly green as opposed to its normal ghostly white. Along with that, it has the usual purple and red flecks around a glitchy body that has green scan lines or grid lines on it, like all the other AR collectibles. No other plushie in the DLC has different colored eyes from its real-world counterpart plushie other than Nightmare Plush. Its item description reads, "It's from that old headset game."
Help Wanted equals Glitchtrap's origin and first canonical appearance. Help Wanted also equals Nightmarion's in-universe first canonical appearance. This means that the Nightmare Plush physically represents the Help Wanted game, which in turn also physically represents Glitchtrap in the real world in-universe. The Nightmare Plush has green eyes, and the graffiti has green eyes. Multiple Nightmare plushies have been spotted in different places, and the graffiti has multiple different eyes. The Nightmare plush is in the real world and the AR one. The cameras and the graffiti are real things. The AR world has multiple eyes appearing sometime whenever Cassie deactivates a node. Glitchtrap has many eyes, and they are always watching you inside the Pizzaplex.
Passing through more digital manifestations to go up some stairs, Cassie looks towards the yellow funnel to guide her to these security nodes that Helpy and Grimmick mention, eventually coming upon a red floating hair mask that looks as if it was made with folded paper with its polygon design. It's a hare, not a bunny, because the face is long like one. Unfortunately for Cassie, she needs to find the child nodes first, which she finds is a barrel hiding behind some pallets and deactivates it. During the search for it, she discovered an AR collectible in the form of the tragedy mask. With that taken care of, she deactivated the security node with ease as she was a pro at her Flow Mobile game, and her Faz wrench was left saying security breached afterwards. Behind her, multiple eyes with red pupils popped into existence, blinking, disappearing, and reappearing at random, but always staring ahead, watching. But she doesn't look behind her, and so doesn't know as the forklift unblocks her path forward. Making her way through another shack, she finds herself crouching low to find a makeshift hole formed between boxes. Putting on her mask, the world shifts into the purple wonderland of AR as she goes through the tunnel. But it looks different with the mask on. The space between big boxes takes on the appearance of a rabbit tunnel. That, combined with the mask on her face, must make Cassie the rabbit of this rabbit tunnel. Exiting the tunnel, Cassie is told by Helpy that he has picked up an unknown entity in the network and tells Cassie to please ask it to leave the area immediately. Glitchtrap and the Mimic consider Mix as an unknown entity to the network. They work together to block it off. They both do it through Helpy, but underestimated Mixes. Seeing another red security node, Cassie rushes off to find the child nodes by following the red wires. It's then, as she is about to finish the last one, that it appears. The entity blocks her sight briefly, filling all of her vision with its digital image. Remember this fact: Cassie is hooked up to the network. It is the reason she can see Mixes. However, that goes both ways. That implant is also the reason Mixes always knows her general location within the Pizzaplex. Grimmick tells Cassie to stay away from Mixes as it's sending a distress signal to Monty, who eagerly responds to its call. With haste, Cassie finishes the security node, unlocking a shutter to a gift shop that hides one more. She deactivates it, all while dodging and hiding from both Mixes and Monty, before Grimmick tells her that the door is open and to look at the camera in a weirdly echoey voice. Also, cutscene Monty is way better than in-game Monty. I mean, seriously, if Monty acted nearly as fast and aggressively as he does in his first two cutscenes, he would be the most terrifying and difficult enemy to deal with in the game. Though that's not exactly a high bar to clear. Cassie watched as Monty self-sabotaged himself before making her way down the stairs and through the previously dangerous electric door. All the while, Grimmick tells her how Monty followed the Mix's signal there, with Helpy informing her that Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for any potential AR traumas or lingering effects of antivirus programs on carbon-based work components. Interesting. A theory for another time. More walks for Cassie, more things to see in the real world and the AR world. She deactivates another pat-pat and keeps on, keeping on. Monty noises behind blocked doors are heard as she goes through a hallway. More puzzles, more security nodes. Monty chews on a gate, giving Cassie a good, if not nervous, chuckle as she goes through a door into a big open room with stairs. She finds more child nodes, even one that is a nightmare plush. But eventually deactivates the security node and then goes on to climb into a vent. At the end of it, she finds another camera station in what looks to be a server room. Helpy helps her by being informative, while Grimmig does more ghostly impressions with his voice. Helpy says he detects unusual signals and tells her to put the mask on and look at the camera. Cassie does just that, and a matching puzzle, for variety's sake. Then, Houdini TV disappears as Cassie jumps through it and lands in Superstar Daycare. But wait! The TV was there before Cassie looked at the camera, much to her and everyone's confusion. What do I think? Digital, manifestation, or glitch trap, manipulation. Or maybe it is something else I miss. Cassie doesn't know, Helpy is gaslighting, and the mimic is deciding what to wear when it is released from prison.
But that's going to be it for me for now. I believe my deep dive analysis can help the community in theorizing about the DLC and the past games in some way. I have noticed that most theorists are getting tunnel vision with the holy grail, which is the FNAF timeline theory, and are missing out on critical details connecting all the new era games together. And as these two parts of my series have proven, there is, without a doubt, still more to find. So much more.